And then just tell me when.
You're good. Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Greetings. I'm Pasadena Photography Arts Advisor, Erica Martin, and I'm joined by my fellow advisor and co-host for this evening, and also fabulous photographer, Lori Pond. Hi, everybody. We'd like to welcome you to our latest open show, and we curated this on the theme of mixed media, using photography with other means to tell a story. Um, First, I want to tell you about our next installment of Open Show. That's been announced, and we've begun accepting applications if you want to be in Open Show. The next Open Show will be a special collaboration with the Inglewood Photo Festival. Selected artists will present live at the Inglewood Photo Festival 2026 on May 16th. For more information on how to submit, visit our website at pasadenaphotographyarts.org. We're also thrilled to announce that we're accepting submissions for the PPA Photo Award 2026, Excellence in Contemporary Photography. This annual award recognizes and promotes emerging photographers, and the winning photographer will receive $2,000 cash prize, a published interview on Pasadena Photography Arts website, a feature on Lens Scratch, which is a wonderful website, and a virtual artist talk. You can learn more information how to submit on our website, pasadenaphotographyarts.org. From the beginning, PPA has been dedicated to fostering the photography community on the east side of Los Angeles. Toward that end, we're proud to support these entities dedicated to photography and the arts: LACP, Lens Scratch, Interpublic, Armory, The Bridge, and LA Photo Curator. In the wake of the devastating Eaton fire, AltadenaPhotographers.org was set up as a registry to provide photographers impacted by the fire with replacement equipment. If you're in a position to help out or would like to take advantage of their service, visit the AltadenaPhotographers.org website to find out how. We'd like to especially thank Bill Wishner for underwriting this evening's open show. If you would like to help us present a future open show or a forum event, please contact us at pasadenaphotographyarts.org, and we appreciate all the support we can get. And we love that you've tuned in tonight. Let us know in the chat where you're tuning in from. We'd be very interested to know. And now, let the show begin. So our first artist is André Ramos-Woodard, and André was raised in the southern states of Tennessee and Texas. He's a photo-based artist who uses their work to emphasize the experience of marginalized communities while accenting the repercussions of contemporary and historical discrimination. Working in a variety of media, including photography, text, illustration, this art conveys ideas of communal and personal identity influenced by direct experience with life as a queer African American. Focused on Black liberation, queer justice, and the reality of mental health, André aspires for his art to help bring power to the people. André's work has been shown in group and solo shows across the country and as far away as Iceland. He was a Critical Mass Top 50 finalist and recently shortlisted for the Lens Culture Portrait Awards, amongst many other accolades. In Black Snafu, André appropriates various depictions of Black people found throughout the history of cartooning and juxtaposes them with photographs that celebrate and line up more authentically with their Black experience. And fun fact, André is a triplet. Take it away, André.
Thank you so much. First of all, I don't know, I'm just like super stoked for this opportunity. I'm very thankful to Pasadena Photography Arts and just really excited to be amongst a cohort of really amazing artists. So first of all, thank you for letting me blabber to you and having open ears for that. So
The
yeah, I'll
first
just
question, are identical or fraternal?
oh, they're fraternal. I mean, they're identical and I'm fraternal.
Oh, okay,
So
okay. Wow.
I'm the weird one. But I love it. I love it. So as far as this goes, I have been taking pictures for I think 15 years now. I started in high school, but I've been loving art as long as I can remember. I used to love like watching Dragon Ball Z and anime and cartoons, and that was what really got me into art, and it's kind of catapulted into what I'm making today, which is this project, Black Snafu. And so this project began in 2020 and it continues to evolve. It's an ongoing project. And the title Black Snafu comes from actually an old cartoon called Private Snafu. And so what this cartoon was a cartoon that was made in the mid 1900s, the 1940s. And this cartoon was made specifically to teach soldiers in the American military how to be soldiers by showcasing this main character. His name was Private Snafu. And Private Snafu like sucked so bad. He was bad at everything. He was bad at shooting. He was a misogynist. He missed his malaria vaccine. He just sucked. But I am taking this usage of cartooning for my own. Like what they were doing was using the medium of cartooning, which is so accessible to all ages, to teach people about something. And so I decided I wanted to do the same thing in my work. I'm using old cartoons from the history of American cartooning to teach people about blackness and black celebration, but also colonialism and white supremacy. So at its core, Black Snafu is about the collision between representation and reality. I use photography and illustration to place black cartoon characters alongside black people and black spaces and take pictures of things that are emotionally black. I'm interested in what happens when these inherited visual mythologies, if you could call them that, are forced to confront my and the lived experience. And so a big part of this project is dealing with the caricature. For those that don't know, minstrel caricatures are these like vile, nasty depictions of people of color, specifically Black people in this case. And so the cartoon language that I appropriate doesn't just come from anywhere. Historically, many of the most recognizable images of Blackness in American visual culture actually were created through minstrelsy and racist illustrations invented by white men who had no relationship to Black interior life because they never experienced it. And quite frankly, they cannot experience it. Those caricatures were not by any means neutral. They were political. They were used as political tools. They exaggerated features and behaviors and emotions in ways that flattened Black people into nothing more than entertainment and threat and spectacle. And those images didn't disappear either. They evolved. They traveled from stage to newspaper, from comic strip to animation, from advertising to pop culture, and they shaped how Black people are seen across America and the Black diaspora across the world. So when I use the aesthetics in Black Snafu, I'm not celebrating these minstrel caricatures. I'm interrogating them. I'm reclaiming these visual weapons that were designed under white supremacy and asking what happens when I use these same tools and turn them back on the system that once created them. But I gotta admit, because it gets really tiring, the project isn't only about exposing this harm, it's about care and counterbalance. I mean, constantly looking at these negative depictions and absorbing these anti-black depictions of black of well, absorbing these anti-black depictions as a black person is very exhausting and psychologically draining. And so I realized that early on in the work, I didn't want to just reclaim these tools that were negative. I also wanted to reclaim tools that were positive. Like, for example, Huey and Riley Freeman from the Boondocks or Vince LaSalle from Recess, like these amazing black cartoon characters from my childhood that would fight against the minstrel caricatures that I was also reclaiming. And so these images, the pro-black characters, they don't mock blackness. They complicate it and they add love to it. And they let us breathe a little bit. So including them is a way of honoring the images that help shape me without harm. They function as a visual rest point inside the project, and they sit next to caricature, but they don't erase it. Um, they do that to remind us that Black representation can be it can be thoughtful and it can be funny and critical and political and tender, and it can do all of these things at the same time. So Black Snafu kind of moves through these two visual inheritances. It's one is built through colonialism and white supremacy, and another is built through Black imagination and self-definition. And the tensions between these worlds is kind of where the work lives right now, and hopefully for the rest of the future. Um, so formally, the project blends photography with illustration, right? And I'm drawn to the tension that's created when I do this. It's it's crossed between humor and harm and beauty and violence and fact and fiction. And some of these images feel playful at first, but the longer you sit with them, the heavier and stranger they become. That delay is intentional. I want viewers to enter through attraction and then realize that they're inside a more complicated space. But there's also celebration in the work, specifically Black celebration. It's not just about critique, it's about honoring Black presence and Black creativity and tenderness and joy. And so by placing these caricatures next to intimacy or spectacle next to something that's quiet, the images insist that Black life cannot be reduced to the flat logic of stereotype. And the word snafu, which means situation normal all fucked up, it's military speech. It implies disorder, but it also implies endurance. Things keep moving when the system itself is unstable. And so for me, Black Snafu lives inside that contradiction, loving parts of Black visual culture while actively resisting the structures that distorted it in the first place. And through making this work, I ask myself questions. I ask like, who authored the images of Blackness that we've inherited? Who benefits from their circulation? How do we reclaim visual space from a history that tried to define Black people before we could even define ourselves? Rather than offering clean answers, this work tries to make room for answers. It makes room for contradiction and vulnerability and rage and beauty and refusal. It allows Blackness to exist without being resolved into something that is easy to consume. So when people encounter the work, I hope they don't just see critique. I hope they feel a sort of interruption. I want the images to feel kind of like uh like like those warped mirrors at a fun house. They're familiar enough to recognize yourself, but strange enough to expose the deeply performative experiences and powers that's embedded in this visual language itself. And so, in conclusion, I think Black Snafu becomes less about fixing representation and more about unsettling it, reclaiming these caricatures, exposing white supremacy's visual language, and insisting on Black reality and Black celebration at the same time. And that's Black Snafu for now. So thanks for listening to me blabber.
Andre, can you tell us something about these particular cartoon references and where they're from, what they meant to you and why you use some of these particular images?
Yeah, most definitely. So when I started Black Snafu, I literally Googled African American cartooning, and this is what came up. I mean, some beautiful things came up and some like nostalgic things came up, but so did minstrelsy and anti-Black caricatures. And when I did this research, I found a list of 11 cartoons called the Censored 11, and these are 11 banned cartoons. They were specifically banned after the Civil Rights Movement was passed because they're anti-Black. And America was like, wait, maybe we should stop being anti-Black for a second. So there's this like list of Warner Brothers and Disney cartoons that are no longer available to the public because they're anti-Black. You can find them on the internet because you can find anything on the internet. But these racist depictions are from the censored 11 for the most part. But also there's way more than 11, let's be real. So I did like find other avenues too, but mostly they're from that.
And what is the significance of the white gloves that appears over and over? Is that something from minstrel shows, or where does that come from?
Yeah, that actually comes from minstrel shows. You hit it on the head. Like it's a bit further than just cartoons. Vaudeville performances in the early 1900s included people that were in blackface and they wore white gloves so they could have a contrast between their animated hands and their faces. And
Mhm.
so white gloves, even though they belong to things that are as popular as like Mickey Mouse and Disney cartoons and Cuphead, one of my favorite video games, right? Like white gloves have become a staple in cartooning, but I refuse to ignore their connection to a racist history. They're connected to vaudeville.
I like your approach of when you said you go in, people are attracted because of this happy looking character and it looks kind of, funny. And that draws in an audience and then they get to linger with that. And it's great to see these images over and over again because I can really get to the depth of these characters now.
Thank you.
Really well
Yeah.
done.
Thank you so much. I mean, I love art. I love contemporary. I love flashy things. I love jewelry. I love like pop colors. I just love that sort of stuff. So even though I want to talk about something that's maybe critical or severe in some cases, I don't want to ignore the fact that I want to make pretty things sometimes. Like that's just a part of my nature. But that no by no means diminishes my political views or my critical standpoints on these like I don't know, these critiques of white supremacy. So I do love using things that are going to like colors and still lifes that attract people, but I want to also use these like tools to be didactic to an audience.
Hmm. Hmm.
How many images are in the whole series?
I think there's about close to 40 now. I've been working on it for since 2020, right? So 6 years. And it's not, there's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of like, I don't just go out and shoot, right? Like I set things up in a studio and plan things out and sketch things out. So it takes me time to make an image, but I love making them. And I hope to make enough to one day have a book project. We'll
I was
see.
going to say this cries out to be a book project for sure.
Thank you for saying that, because fingers crossed. Maybe someone will think that that has publisher money.
Yeah, right.
I noticed that as far as the process goes, that some of them it looks like you've painted them on, and some of them it looks like they're more of a cartoon drawing. And I was wondering if you could maybe speak briefly to like this one looks like you drew or painted on it.
Mhm.
If you could speak briefly to the multimedia process that you used.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to the drawing materials, sometimes I just go crazy. I just do whatever feels right in the moment. Most of them are using pastel. Let me back up. I draw the character on Procreate on my iPad, and then I juxtapose that character with an image I take in Photoshop. I print that image out, and then I use traditional materials like pastel, crayon, paint, or whatever feels right in the moment to enhance that character and kind of allow it to pop off the page a little bit. But it depends. Like this one of Sugar Mama is pretty much just a drawing. And then there's other ones with paint splatter and crayon and marker. And so, sometimes I want to enhance the character and sometimes I want to defile the character. It depends on my relationship to who they are.
Well, Andre, this work is really remarkable, and the comments have been coming. I love that you combine history and art. It's a powerful combination. Incredible work. I'm so
Oh,
glad to see legs on this deeply layered, important work. Bravo. That's from Debbie Arlick, one of our advisors. It is definitely a project that really needs more time than we have today to discuss further because this could be a discussion all on its own where we could go. So I want to thank you so much.
thank you.
And yeah, it was wonderful. And we're going to
Thank you
go
so
right
much.
into Anne's work next.
Bravo, Andre. And we move on to Ann Mitchell. Ann Mitchell is a Southern California-based artist, curator, and educator whose photography is rooted in narrative storytelling. She received her BFA in photography from Art Center College of Design and spent over a decade as an award-winning advertising and editorial photographer before earning her MFA in art from Claremont Graduate University. During that time, she also discovered a passion for curating and community building through organizing photography exhibitions and events. Mitchell later joined the art department at Long Beach City College, where she taught visual media for more than 20 years and served as chair and digital media program coordinator. Her work has been exhibited nationally and internationally, including at the Center for Photographic Art, the Seoul Museum of Art, and the CSU Long Beach Art Gallery, and has been featured in publications such as Black and White Photography UK, Lens Scratch, Float Magazine, Women's Art Quarterly, and Balcony Press. In 2021, she founded thinkingaboutphotography.com, a quarterly online photo journal where she curates the work of other artists. Now, Anne was asked if she had a fun fact to reveal about herself. And her fun fact is she's a total Star Trek nerd. So I have to start with that. Okay, which series, or all of them, or what?
All of them. All of them. You
Okay.
can't be a nerd and not do the whole canon.
That's for sure.
Although I will say that I have been to conventions. I haven't worn costumes, so I haven't completely gone. There's still another step to go.
There always is. Okay, Anne, I'm eager to hear about this project from you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Andre is a tough act to follow. So I was like, oh shit, okay. Anyway, so this is called Impressions of the California Southland. And I started with several real inspirations. Two were 19th century Japanese artists. Probably the one that everybody knows is the 100 Famous Views of Edo, which was a study on a location. The other 100 Views of Mount Fuji. And what I loved about that one is that while the first 35 were very much, kind of nonfiction, he then expanded into starting incorporating his imagination and the spirit world. Another inspiration was an LA-based painter named Barbara Thomason, and she has this terrific book that I would recommend. It's 100 Not So Famous Views of LA. And it really, is kind of a wonderful sort of tongue-in-cheek and kind of goes to the heart of what is a landmark, how do we connect to a space personally. Okay, next slide. So I'm interested in the divide between the glamorous fantasy of Southern California and the actual experience of living here. This is probably one of the best known places in the world because of the entertainment industry, but that's not my experience of it. I grew up here. My mother didn't drive, and so we spent a lot of time taking buses from one part of town to another. And she was a painter, so we would travel and she would paint, which meant that a lot of my time was spent waiting and, hanging out in the park or hanging out on the pier or hanging out at the beach. And really kind of, in a way, what kept me company. I love the thought of being part of a triplet. I was an only child. And so what kept me company were the structures and the locations around me. And as I revisited them, they became things that were very essential to me. So for me, the experience of living here, even though it's considered LA and Southern California, I think it can be a very quiet one. And so this project explores that idea, the vision of kind of an everyday. Next slide. In creating these images, I also really enjoyed returning to the use of color. My early career as a commercial and advertising photographer was in color. And what was really wonderful about this was to kind of have my way with color. I experimented starting with various base prints where I would start with black and white, I would start with sepia, start with color. I ended up starting with color because I didn't want to paint or draw the entire space, and I wanted elements of the photograph to come through and then elements of my work to overwhelm it. I then go in with colored pencils and pastels. I love pastels. There's kind of this wonderful velvety pureness to the color. And I also wanted to really be thoughtful about the language that I was going to create that was going to be my color language. There's a Spanish painter named Sorolla who has these really beautiful, purple and cool shadow tones. And so here I have actually in the red, I don't know if you can see it in this, but in the red lanterns, there's little bits of green to kind of intensify the red. And then the purple shadows against the yellow of the building to pair with each other and kind of literally complement them. Next slide. One of the things, and I think Andre briefly mentioned it and I connected to it, was I think at a certain point you have to decide how you want to work. Like what is going to be your mission statement, like your interior mission statement that can drive you forward. And for me, one of the important elements, well, there's two. One is to slow things down. Um, you know, I came out of, I learned photography when it was film and darkroom. And so there was this long process. And while I shoot with digital now, it's just too fast for me to then send it and print it and boom, it's done. So slowing down that process was one of them. And the other is the mark of the hand. And so, this is a really good example of that. These are, in reality, they're flat color spaces, but yet I can really kind of go in and have my way with it and sort of leave that mark that when I walk up to a painting or a drawing, I'm always looking to see, the lines where they've drawn, where I can it's almost like you get to walk with the artist as they're doing it. Okay, next. Another important aspect for me was really thinking about the idea of what is a landmark, what makes something worth my time, because these take a long time to do. And it was funny because like that was part of the plan was I wanted to slow things down. And then it was like, oh my God, this is taking forever. So, it kind of came back and bit me. But I think we all create our own landmarks. For me, I think there's certain locations that capture my imagination. So this is in Eagle Rock. It's on a street called Colorado, which back in the day, I mean, it's still a busy street, but before the freeway came in, it was like the main street. And so I look at a building like this and I think, it didn't have to look like this. Like they decided to make a round entryway, a round doorway, and then a round thing to hold the sign. And like all of those were choices that were kind of, to me, they're like a Rorschach test for the people that created this space. And so it's the kind of thing then that now it's time and the sun has passed because it's kind of the main motel actually is happening around the other side. But to me, this feels like it was an echo of its former glory. So I like to think one of my earliest studies was in architecture. And so I still feel that structures really speak to us. Okay, next one. This is Waverly Drive. And so Los Angeles has a whole series of, I guess, their infrastructure construction that went up in the 20s and 30s. And there are these marvelous structures that used to have lovely brass lamps. The lamp you're looking at right now has long been stolen, and they've replaced it. Waverly Drive also has a vaguely creepy um, connection in that it was where the LaBianca family lived, back in the 60s with the Tate LaBianca murders. But for me, I've always really loved this structure. I have photographed it many times, and part of one of the things that you'll notice that I quite often photograph during overcast days, and that's really to give me those open shadows so I can kind of come in. And even when I'm printing, I tend to open those up more so that there's more space to come in with my own coloration. Next one. This is probably one of the more famous locations. So this is Union Station, which if you ever saw Blade Runner, it was featured in that. I mean, it's been featured in a ton of films and TV. And it's kind of interesting, to try and decide. So here's this very iconic structure. There's some very iconic views of it. And what am I going to take away from it? So for me, it used to be that you could actually just kind of walk into the building, walk into it's actually our train station, and you could sit in these chairs, but now they've blocked them all off. But this was taken before that. So I decided instead just to focus on a small detail within that larger structure. The other thing that I've done is I've kind of simplified the image. So originally in the back, there were people sitting there. And for me, that wasn't what the image was about. It was really about these wonderful chairs and their surfaces. And so I removed them. And I think also that goes to the idea of photography versus how we see. So I think when we see, we edit out. We focus in on something that attracts us, and we kind of blur out the rest of the things that we're not focusing on, which is why, like, you'll notice something in a photograph that you never saw when you were taking it. Because your experience wasn't that. So for me, even though they're taken with a camera, I'm not letting the camera have its say. I get to be the one who decides what's in it. Okay, next. So the last image was from a very well-known location. This is from a location that nobody would know. It's just this building that I used to, so when I would commute, I would drive by it every morning, and I just really loved it. Glass bricks kind of came in the 20s or 30s with the deco, but then they brought them back, I think in the 70s and 80s, and really tacked them on to some pretty sad buildings. But I love this kind of little, like, it has great hopes. It wants to be something more. But I also just imagine how beautiful it must be when you walk in, and you have that whole wall of these marvelous bricks. So this is also a good example of dealing with color. So if you put your hand up and you put your hand over that stop sign, and then take it away and then put it back. Just having that bit of red in there really enriches both of them. You know, it's the nature of how color works. If we go to the next one, I think I saw a question asking, do I cover the whole area? Yes and no. It kind of depends on the image. Certain ones, if they don't have a ton of small detail, then yes, I'm doing, I'd say maybe 90% of the image. In this one, I start usually with pencil, and so I actually went in on all these little bricks and, you know, started making them sparkle, but also then balancing the putting cool colors into the shadow areas underneath the ledges and then warming up with this yellow up on top. So it's kind of a balance and it depends on how much detail there is within the image. Okay. This one, I remember, so what drew me to this one is this lamp. Like this is a parking lot and it's not like a swanky parking lot. It's like it's next to a sad little bank in Chinatown. And yet they chose to do this kind of interesting sculptural thing with this lamp that I don't know, I just really loved it. And then you start thinking about the composition. So does it go in the middle? Is it going to go to the side? How am I going to balance it? And then the other issue was, and it was an all white wall. And so what am I going to do with that? And so once again, this was an area where I could really just enjoy color for itself and kind of let it go. Okay, next. And then in terms of how I start with the photograph, like the difference between what I'm shooting and what I'm ending up with. So I was really drawn to, I loved this car, the orange one. And also just this repair shop. And it was kind of, it was one of those locations where it was like a distinct division between industrial and then people living across the street from it. So I was kind of drawn to that. But I didn't like the speed limit sign and I didn't like the other car there. So we can go to the next one. So this is what I ended up with. Usually I'm starting with a single image and then I'm simplifying it. In this case, I ended up adding a second image, which had more of the car and brought that in. And then I started thinking about tying the two areas together. So taking some of the orange from the car and putting it in the trees, bringing the yellow onto the building and then in the trees as well. So just kind of really simplifying it down to the essence of what that space felt like to me. And then this last one. So, you know, photography in many cases is kind of stuck with a discipline that's not ours, which is printmaking. And because of that, we believe we have to work in editions, you know, that the editions are supposed to be all the same. And with this series, there was no way I was going to, like, I wouldn't even want to try and replicate the same thing over and over. And so, while it can be an edition of 5, I'm calling them variable editions. Lately, I've been even more interested in unique editions. But these I would say variable, where it's the same base. And so I printed 3 of these and then I just went to town on them and they're all completely different. And it gave me, what was nice about it is it really gave me the chance to experiment more with, well, what happens if I do this? And what happens if I do this? And
Hey, Anne, I just want to interject. We're
Mhm.
running a little long,
Oh,
and I
sorry.
did have a question for you.
Mhm.
You mentioned it at the very beginning, and it was your connection to Hokusai's 100 views of Mount Fuji. And I just
Mhm.
wonder how you compare your disparate images of Southern California to images that contain the mountain in every image.
Yeah, so I think in terms of the project, I consider it tied a little bit more to the 100 Famous Views of Edo, where what I like on the Mount Fuji one is that his will actually incorporate fantasy and imagination and the spirit world. And so I think that's my connection to it as opposed to, and actually originally I did kind of think, I'd like to have maybe somewhere having the observatory in every image.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I quickly decided, yeah, I don't want to do that.
That'd be too
So,
hard.
yes.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you so much for your
absolutely.
presentation. I wanted to ask you many more questions, but everything you were saying was too fascinating to interrupt until I absolutely had to, because I had to know the answer to that question. So, I think in the chat they wrote where people can see more of Anne's work. I'm a big fan of Anne myself. I have to say, I own one of her pieces. She works in a lot of different media, sculpture even. So check her out. Okay, so next we have the Memoji Mori series by Jane Waggoner Deschner. Montana-based Jane Waggoner Deschner has been an exhibiting artist for over 40 years. For over 20 years, her medium has been the found family photograph. She exhibits online and in museums and galleries nationally. She earned an MFA from Vermont College of Fine Arts in 2002. After growing up in Kansas, she moved to Montana in 1977. In addition to being a mixed media artist, she works as an exhibition installer, graphic designer, photographer, curator, instructor, and picture framer. That's a lot. So she has a current tidbit about herself that I'm going to share. Jane is working with Fall Line Press in Atlanta on a photo book of her Memoji Mori project that should be in print by this time next year. And her birthday was yesterday. So congratulations and belated happy birthday. And you can take it away with
Oh,
your
thank you.
description of the project.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was my birthday yesterday. I keep getting older and older and older.
That's a good thing.
Well, it is. It is true. So I've had, now all this time to get nervous, so I'll try to make it through this. Before I start talking about the series, and you can just, these will rotate through, right? Okay, good. I have to have a little disclaimer. My emotions are very close to the surface. So if I sound emotional, it's just fine. It's who I am. I can't help it. So I just go with it. So I've been working with other people's pictures since 2001. It was the last semester of grad school. And it happened to be, I needed a senior, thesis project, and it happened to be the semester of September 11th. And I wanted to do something about that. It's very easy to point fingers. It's much harder to find something not awful, if that makes sense, there. So I had a friend who said to me, what anchors people at times like this? And I wrote, we still used real mail then, to everybody who's going to be in Vermont in February, and an equal number of people, and asked me to send them a snapshot of something that anchored them. And I scanned them, returned them, and then made my project out of that. And it was a joy. It was a whole total joy to open these pictures every day and see nothing that consumer culture tells you is important, but family, friends, pets, special places, all that kind of stuff. So that really set me on the trajectory of other people's pictures. While I was in grad school, her name was Ernest Pujol, and he said to me during one of our critiques, when you know why you choose the images you choose, you can choose more and you can choose better. So, you're in grad school and you're reading all this stuff, and there's the Susan Sontag quote that became real important to me. She said, the ultimate wisdom of the photographic image is to say, there is a surface. Now think, or rather feel, intuit. What is beyond it when what the reality must be like if it looks this way. Photographs, which cannot themselves explain anything, are inexhaustible invitations to deduction, speculation, and fantasy. So that's that launched me off onto working with other people's pictures. So I thought I would also read you. I write and make art better than I speak. So I'm going to read you also my artist statement, which has to do with why this then, why this now. So disappointments and unmet expectations of happy family have zigzagged through my life. My mother's parents didn't raise her. I don't know why. At 13, I lost her after a 3-year-long illness. No one told me that was going to happen. 9 months later, my father married a widow he'd met only months before. I divorced before reaching 40, necessitating shared custody of 2 young children and causing an overall upheaval in the assumptions I'd realized I'd held about my life. This history drew me to early and mid-century vernacular photographs. And in this series in particular, since childhood, I've been making friends with death, knowing that, it can come to anyone at any time. Pardon me. In my memoji mori series, I hand embroider skeleton hands guided by emoji gestures into vernacular photos. Dia de los Muertos, which is exuberant with its exuberant embrace into life and death and its omnipresent skeletons, has long inspired and consoled me. Sontag wrote also, all photographs are memento mori. Barth added, every photograph is a certificate of presence. Like emojis, photographs are wordless, open to interpretation. My embroidered skeleton hands reclaim and transform photos by adding new layers of meaning, intensify emotional signals, invite deeper interpretation, and offer, as Sontag said, inexhaustible invitations to deduction, speculation, and fantasy. She also said the camera makes everyone a tourist in other people's reality and eventually in one's own. So the stitching came in 2008. I'd been working on the computer. I missed handwork. I missed, handwork is women's work. It's what we do, and it's what I did at night when my kids were asleep. So I had something that lived to the next day. For me, it's meditative. It's very centering, and fits with centuries of women doing that. Let's see.
And it's so perfectly realized too. Is this by hand?
It's all by hand. Yes.
It's amazingly precise.
Why, thank
I'm
you.
looking at it really closely, and it is just gorgeous.
When I went to art school, I thought, okay, I'm going to learn how to do all this drawing and everything. And then at some point, I'll loosen up and be able to just splash paint on canvas. But I can't. I'm tight. I'm just tight. So that's the way it is.
Well,
thank you.
Remarkable craftsmanship.
Oh, thank you. I'm teaching a workshop right now for Santa Fe photo workshops and teaching other people how to do this. So,
oh, great.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Some of these images, that one's very sinister.
Yes, it is.
The hand of death, reaching toward this child who you can't really identify her, but she's frightened. She's afraid of death.
Of something.
Yeah. When I read your statement, I couldn't help but think, are you working through your own fear of death when you're doing this work?
No, I'm trying to make friends.
That's
I'm
great.
trying to realize it's the one thing that connects us all. And when we work with it and we think about it and we talk about it, it loses that fear, I think.
Yes, I agree.
Because I'm very much into, I did a project where this was after, it was in 2015. We all remember 2015. And I wanted to come up with something that showed we're more alike than we are different, and that connects and separates us. So I took photos, studio portraits, snapshots, all that kind of thing. And I found sentences in obituaries that I stitched into them. And because things like, one of my favorites is excuse me, no meal for him was complete without mashed potatoes. So how can you not love somebody whose family thinks that's the most important thing, one of the most important things to put in their obituaries?
It's such an intimate human thing that we can all identify with. It just brings a smile to your face.
Well, it does.
Yeah.
The downside of that kind of series is that you have to be able to speak English. And you have to be able to read to understand the juxtaposition between the photo and what's written on it.
Yeah.
So that's why I've really enjoyed this series with the skeleton hands, because it's more universal.
Now, what about the specific hand positions? I can't do them very well. My
Well,
hands
I
don't
base
do
them
that.
on emoji gestures. So,
Yeah.
all the emojis we use. So, like, these are sort of based on it, but, stop.
Okay.
There's love. I've done a whole bunch of love ones, which is like
Mhm.
this.
This one is particularly lovely. I love how you interlace the hands, and yet you can see her eye, the iris and pupil of her eye are uncovered.
Right. Yeah.
Beautifully done.
Well, thank you. Well, some of these are done on original vintage prints.
And this one I think is my absolute favorite.
Aren't they just delightful?
I love them, and I love that you added another layer to their bond. Obviously, they're very bonded and happy.
Yeah.
And so having their pinkies interlock, or with their thumbs, I forget what it is.
They're their pinkies.
Their pinkies. Yeah. It reinforces this great bond between these women.
Yeah.
Yeah, you made it a whole different dimensional greatness now. It's just great. I love it.
Well, there's many people think that if you don't know the people in the pictures, you should throw them away. I mean, they aren't worth anything, but there's a universality to all of this. And like Nan Golden talks about how we all take snapshots to remember things. We take them out of love to remember people, places, and times. And sometimes it's the only memory we have of that time as we get older. I posted on whatever Instagram yesterday. I have a picture of my 4th grade birthday party. Without that snapshot, I would not remember that. I would have no memory of that party. But here's me, and here are my friends sitting around the living room.
I'm the same. I always like to take pictures to remember anything that I do. So it's good to have a phone that can do that.
Like, where did you find this picture?
I know the
Expressions are like,
Yeah, they are.
I can look at this photo forever, and I have.
Me too.
Where I find these photos, I used to buy them on eBay. Now they're too expensive. I have too many anyway. But there's a dealer in New York City who would send me flat rate boxes full of the photos that she had that no collectors bought. And this was in one of those. And it's only like 3 by 1.5 inches. It's very small. And I've actually even blown it up so that it's like 40 inches wide and framed it that big. It's just,
wow.
I can look at, I want to figure out there's no real connection between all these people, except for some reason they had a studio portrait taken. And
I love them. They're just wonderful characters.
they all have the same expression. Wow.
yeah, but 2 ties.
And the 2 ties are kind of slanting off to the left, and his suit's askew, and note their eyes. Wow. Great
I
eye.
have decided that what's going on in his mind is he's thinking, when can I get out of here and get
Yeah.
And she's thinking, keep him here longer. We, need to keep him away from the booze. And the
I
little girl
love
in the middle
how the right side of his mouth is going up, and the left side of her mouth, the woman on the left, is going down.
it's remarkable.
Yeah, it really is.
Very fun. So,
So Jane, in the comments, there's a Travis Black wanted to know, even though these are remarkable images that we're looking at, is there any one found image that was your holy grail? Like as soon as you saw it, you were speechless.
I have a few awesome favorites. The one we just looked at is a favorite. I did a series when I was starting to embroider, but really hadn't yet, where I would find a photo that was like the whole story is right there. You can't, it's, you just really can't add anything more to it. And it's a picture of a man and a wife and their baby, and the baby's in the middle. And you can tell she's just had the baby. She looks really tired, and he's holding the baby. He's got this big grin on his face, and on his arm, it's the Barth punctum is a tattoo of a like a hula dancer. And I just know she's thinking, "Oh shit, it's a boy. And now I've got two of them." But that's one of my all-time
Yeah,
favorites.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
The
This is
I
a
do
project,
love
great
these
one.
people too.
yeah,
I love these two people.
And that's a love emoji that's on that one.
Oh, okay. Got it.
That's what
Got
that
it.
is.
I didn't know that. I thought it was the Hawaiian shaka symbol or
That's
something.
like that.
Well,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
also it's also sign language for "I love you," as I understand.
Okay.
This is-
Okay.
Oh, are some of the other ones sign language, ASL?
Well, not necessarily, no.
Okay.
They're mostly skeleton hands. They're mostly emojis made as skeleton hands, and then sometimes I just change it a little bit. This is another love one.
You know, how many people beside you in 2001 were using vernacular photos as part of their art?
I don't know. Not
I can't think there were too many. I keep thinking you're way ahead of the curve in that regard.
There were collectors who were collecting the vernacular photos, but as art. One of them, Robert Jackson, who lives in Seattle, in 2007, the National Gallery in Washington, D.C. did a show of his photography, of his collection. And it was the first time they'd ever done one person's collection, and it was the first time they'd ever done vernacular work. And they had a symposium and snapshots that afternoon. I went, and that's where I met Robert, and we've become good friends.
Oh, wonderful.
So, but I did about 30 love ones. And for this book for Fall Line Press, they're going to do what do they call it? A poster zine for the SPE conference in March. Anyway,
Nice.
but so I went through all of these and sent them JPEGs, and I've done over 100. So some of these, like this one, is the actual vintage photo. Some of them, like the two women that you liked, and some of the others are these are prints that I scan into the computer
Uh-huh.
and then blow them up. Like I scan them at real high resolution, blow them up like 200%.
So
go
are
in.
you using like a Topaz AI to
No.
blow them up?
No, I scan them, and then in Photoshop you can just say enlarge, 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 enlarge.
Yeah.
Well, and then I clean them up and then I shrink them back down. It's just so that I can get in really close
Yeah.
and take out dust and scratches and things that would be distracting.
The Topaz AI is just a little program that makes the resolution actually better than the original.
Well, I kind of,
But
I
if you
want
don't want that, yeah, that doesn't
I
happen.
kind of like maintaining that connection.
Sure.
I mean, I take out stuff that's distracting, like
Mm-hmm.
on most of them. I haven't on all of them, but like a big scratch or something,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want, or a big blob of dust or something. I don't know.
Oh,
but
yeah. I always get rid of stuff like that too. Your work is fantastic. I'm so glad we got to share it with you, or
Oh,
you
thank
got to
you.
share it with us. I mean, that was just lovely.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You're so
my
welcome.
goodness. The show tonight, ladies and gentlemen, was just wonderful. It was beautifully presented. You all spoke well. Our audience has been magical. Thank you. Lori and Erica have been amazing. We're so pleased that you all joined us. And I'll let the ladies close us out. How you doing over there, Erica and Lori?
Thank you to all our presenters. Your guys' work. We loved when we went through looking at all the submissions. The three of you really stood out, and we're thrilled to have met you and had this experience with you.
It was wonderful seeing how different all of your approaches were to mixed media, and I think you're at the top of the list at all of your endeavors. I enjoyed so much each body of work that you presented. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing your work.
Thank you so much.
Bravo.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for
Good
joining us.
night.
See you next
We
time.
love you.
Come join Pasadena Photography Arts.
Yeah.
Hey, all right.